We want to talk a little bit about, this is obviously going to be something we watch, and we've been seeing all of these cups, guys, but also not just the summer season, also the spring season. So we were kind of posed the question, who do we think has been the best DPS player? Who do we think has been the best healer player? And who's been kind of the overall biggest momentum swinger for all of these cups? And I mean, we're doing this for Europe today. We're going to do the same thing for North America tomorrow. And we have some pretty interesting picks. We'll start it off with the DPS. Who do we think were some of the best DPS players? And we want you guys to get involved in the discussion as well. So let us know who you think has been the best DPS. Obviously, Method Black with so much dominance, a lot of our picks are going to come from there.
Yeah, not my best DPS pick though.
Not yours, yeah.
There's a little bit spoilers there for the rest of you guys, but my pick is actually going to be Kara. Kara is the Red Paladin slash Hunter on Enlight, of course, and I just feel like, I mean, he's a BlizzCon winner. He's, in my opinion, the best Red Paladin as well. He's really good in-game communicating, and I feel like this guy has been such a great DPS player for his team, playing, you know, Hunter and winning a cup, you know, against teams like Method Black, teams like, you know, Change My Mind, all of these rogue mage teams like Diablos as well. On his essentially alt, he had to bring that out in BlizzCon, playing Warrior, playing so many different things, and he's just been a phenomenal player to watch.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun watching Enlight in general, right? Like, Enlight just been on a tear throughout various cups. They actually managed to win a cup with Kara on his alt Hunter, so I think Kara's a fair pick. What about you, Sid? Who did you have?
I mean, I went with the Warrior, the one Warrior making a final stand, Blizzo. I feel like he's just been a tight player for years at this point for his team, playing both defense and offense solidly. He's always rotating effectively with his healer to cover up any sort of weaknesses that there might be potentially defensively. And then he's also not afraid to take risks and set up the team aggressively. He's just the most well-rounded damage dealer player. He's the only player we've seen finding success really in Europe against the rogue mage druid compositions, and that's definitely, I feel like, a feat of strength. So Blizzo is my best DPS pick.
Fair enough, fair enough. Elliot?
Surprise, surprise, I went with, you know, a member of Method Black, and I, of course, chose Waz. Just, I feel like Waz overall, he's got a lot going for him. Of course, rogues are really strong right now, but consistently, I feel like he has been the best rogue, really showcasing that class in Europe for sure. And I feel like one thing he has going for him as well is his overall communication. You know, when I watch a stream, I see him in sort of a LAN environment, the way he can communicate to his team, constantly talking about offensive, defensive cooldowns, how they're going to set up a win condition. I just feel like he's the golden boy of this team. Yeah,
I actually also went with Waz for my DPS pick, and we want to know who you guys agree with, disagree with. Kara's obviously a very interesting pick from Zico. I personally think Waz has just been, he's such a high energy person, you know, like, he's exactly what you want on your roster. You don't want negativity, you want someone who always believes they can win, that they can make the play, and I mean, Waz has been a really good pick with the way that Method Black's been winning. It's honestly, I'm kind of surprised you can pick anyone who isn't from Method Black, because they've just been dominant in Europe.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult decision to make. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about it just amongst ourselves, so it was certainly difficult when if you're only looking at one category, which is winning. But if you look at other categories as well, like communication, overall gameplay, team synergy, energy, I mean, there's so many categories that you could infinitely list there.
Do you think Blizzo has those categories over Waz, though?
I'd have to. The thing is, like, we get to see Waz on stream.
Off your pick a little bit.
The main problem is that we get to see Waz on stream, so we get to see his personality.
He's an MVP, right?
Whereas Blizzo, I mean, maybe he is, but we don't get to see that. We don't get to hear his communication in the game very often. Maybe it is comparable. I feel like there's a couple times their team has an interesting way of communicating with each other.
They do.
Wildcard Gaming. They're very what's the word?
Yeah.
Open with each other in their communications, but it gets their problems solved. They're very just cut and dry. Like, this is a problem we need to fix, and they're all willing to accept each other's opinions based on that and improve. So that's unique to them, but
unique to them, and something that you find a little bit endearing on Wildcard Gaming. There was actually an interview with Wildcard Gaming as well, guys. You should check out their Twitter. It was very entertaining. Swapsy especially, or no, Swapsy, not Swapsy. Zipai was very entertaining in that one. We were having a good laugh at some of his answers. But let's move on to the healers then. We'll sideline the DPS. I still think Waz was probably the DPS of the year, but let's go on to healers. Zico, who did you have as your pick?
My pick was Looney. I mean, it's maybe not that unexpected. I've been kind of hammering down what I think about Looney throughout the year, and even in Legion. He's just been a phenomenal multi-classer, and in my opinion, the two most important healers to play in the meta has been Druid and Mistweaver, and the reason why I went with him instead of someone like Chaz is because I just think that he has those down better than anybody else.
Quick fire Super Tees?
I went with Chaz. That's mostly because he's played the cleave setups. He's played the Rogue Mage Druid. He's just the all-around playstyle Druid. He's not niched into one specific style. And because he's so versatile and because he's so consistent, winning basically every single tournament that he's in, Chaz is my go-to.
Okay. Venriki?
Yeah, for overall well-rounded healer, I feel like the two obvious choices for me are going to be Looney and Chaz. I went with Looney just because I feel like during this year, he had to adapt a little bit more and play more than just the Restoration Druid. For Chaz, it seemed like that was all he really had to go for, so I went with Looney. Obviously, a really good showing on the Mistweaver Monk as well as the Restoration Druid, and we know that he can play Shaman. I mean, this is a guy who literally won BlizzCon with that class, so I just have to give a slight lead for him.
Okay, fair enough. I went with Chaz, and this was one of the most heatedly discussed things that we did when it came to this, because Looney and Chaz, they kind of come from different backgrounds, but they're so similar. The way I looked at it and the way I justified my pick to Zico was Looney is the healer that every healer should be. You know, he's nice and safe. All his DPS love him. He keeps them alive forever. Chaz is the healer that every healer wants to be. You know, going for those aggressive plays, going for the low cyclone. And myself, I really like that play style. So Chaz was the pick for me. Looney, though, he has been multi-classing a lot. So I definitely understand that pick. I mean, he's proven himself on pretty much every single healer.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Looney has just been consistent on every single healer. And, I mean, he's really known for this super defensive strategy, but I know that he can play the aggressive style as well if he has to. He just usually favors comps that are on the defensive side. So I think he has every playstyle down, and I think he can't really be rivaled on that Monk and that Druid. And of course his Shaman as well is probably still up to par. So for me, I had a long debate with myself about Chaz or Looney, but in the end I went with Looney.
In the end, you were saying that like the European healers that can just play everything are just so impressive, and that's one of the things this year that we haven't always seen from all the North American healers. Like you've got people like Cubsy who are outstanding on Druid, or Sidu outstanding on Shaman, but Chaz and Looney, like these guys have been holding it down on all the healers pretty much, I mean, throughout the years.
I mean, it's true. And that's one of the things that happens. There's a lot of consistency throughout the year. And I mean, that's why we really, these two healers sort of rose above the rest, because they have been consistent not only this year, but in the years past.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to the MVPs, guys. So we've seen the best DPS, the best healer. Let's get our MVP picks. We'll go down the other side this time. So, Venriki, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I had kind of an interesting pick for my MVP. I decided to go with Zuniaki just because I feel like it is really rare where you see someone playing a healer and a DPS at a top tier level. Not only that, Zuniaki was the only discipline priest to win a cup this year in Europe, and I feel like he did it with style. Not only that, he had to bring in the arms warrior, and he played that top tier. There was no mistakes whatsoever basically coming in from him. I just feel like he was so important for his roster to succeed, and he just really impressed me as a player.
Yeah, Enlight's definitely been a fan favorite in Europe. Sid?
Yeah, my MVP is going to be Raikou. He brings in not only the mage, but brought in the demon hunter as well. I think it was very important for his team to have multiple play styles. We see a lot of other teams that get pigeonholed into either they're a rogue mage team, they're a spellcaster team, or they're a melee cleave team. But Raikou's ability to diversify off of the mage onto other classes like the demon hunter gave their team so much more depth, which has allowed them the most amount of success. And he's also just been in every single game that Method Black play and tournament play. So Raikou's my MVP.
There you go. I mean, Raikou's definitely been doing a good job on the multi-classing. Z, how about you?
My MVP is Waz.
There you go.
And similarly to Ven's kind of reasoning, just from not just watching him, but playing with him and seeing him in-game as well, he is that player. We refer to it as the Waz effect, and he has that spark when he's playing in the game and he's excited. He lifts up everyone else's spirit like that, and he's making plays. He plays his class to the best of its capability, but also he will be the guy who's like, okay, Chess, do you have bark skin? Do you have trinket? Okay, am I dead on the next setup? Okay, what's our lose condition? What's our win condition? Raikou, when do you have this? When do you have that, Chess? When do you have bash? When do you have poly? He's the guy who really pushes you forward aggressively, and he's also a person who just makes you aware that, hey, we can lose soon. Be careful. So for me, I think he had the most amount of impact on his team from an outsider perspective, at least, and that's why I go with Waz as well.
You talk about the spark on Waz. There's a little spark in your eyes, kind of like watching a dad when their sons won their first football tournament or something. It's just
He's
like that pride, It's beautiful to see. My pick was Swapsy here, actually. I think Method Black have just been dominant in Europe. I found it very difficult to deviate off of them on any of the picks. And Swapsy, he's just, I love the guy. I was watching Waz's stream a couple of days ago, and he was just saying anything ridiculous they said. He just made it look how ridiculous. He grounds the team, and not only that, he trims their nails for them, as we found out at the spring finals. So I feel like that's an MVP move, if any, we've seen. We want to know what you guys think.